Hello, my name is Dr. Queenie Kurare. I am the founder and the coordinator of Flash Wings Ministries, a ministry that is dedicated to cater for the needs of women. Today I'm going to talk about something very interesting, which I find interesting myself, and it's talking about dealing with in-laws. And this is specifically to women married into a family. And due to some family center statistics, they've said 80% of women are not happy with their in-laws, or rather in good terms with their in-laws. And also 85% of mother-in-laws are not happy with their wives and their son's choice of a wife. So you realize that there's always this conflict between in-laws, especially daughter-in-law versus mother-in-laws. I don't know what it is, but there's always this conflict. And the aim for this teaching is to see how we can have a more healthier relationship with our in-laws as women. So it's really directed to women married into a family. And we're going to look at the Word of God today and just see what God intends marriage to be, and or the kind of behavior God expects us to have towards our in-laws, or our in-laws have towards us. And I want to read Matthew chapter 19 verse 4 to 6. He answered, "Have you not read that he who created them from the beginning made them male and female, and said, therefore, a man shall leave his father and his mother, and hold fast to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. So they are no longer two but one flesh. What therefore God has joined together, let no man separate." And some verses is put asunder. So when you go to many marriages, you realize that this is one verse that is very popular and always directing to family, extended families, to stay clear and allow these two people to enjoy their union. So Jesus was saying that God has created both men and women, and has asked a man to leave his parents and become one with his wife. Now, the leaving his parents doesn't mean that he should do away with his parents or do not have any relationship with them. What he's just trying to say is that your parents do no longer have any authority over you anymore. You now have to start your own life with your own wife. Ephesians 4 verse 29. Let no corrupting talk come out of your mouths, but only such as is good for building up, as it fits the occasion, that it may give grace to those who hear. So another thing again is that it's encouraging us that we should not let any corrupting, any evil come out of our mouth, whether you are the in-laws or you are a wife in the family, but talks that gives grace, talks that is uplifting. Ephesians 6 1 to 2. It says, "Children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Honor your father and mother, which is the first commandment with a promise." So likewise again, this is actually directed to children, but also honoring our parents. Doesn't matter whether you're a child or you're an adult, we have to honor our parents. So I also encourage women that are married to a family to honor their in-laws as well, especially their father and their mother-in-law, just as you would honor your own as well. It's a commandment with a promise. Proverbs 11:29, it says, "He who brings trouble on his family will inherit only wind, and the fool will be servant to the wise." So also, if you are someone that always brings trouble, whether you are the in-laws or you are the wife married into a family and you're always stirring up trouble, just know that you're just bringing more trouble upon your own self. And the Bible says that's foolish, and if you are foolish, you will always be the servant to a wise person. Proverbs 15 verse 27. A greedy man brings trouble to his family, but he who hates bribe will live. So it's also talking about the family as well, the family setting. If you are greedy or selfish, you always bring trouble to the family. And most times, some of the fights between in-laws and couple or daughter-in-laws are usually very selfish, interest-seeking kind of fights that brings more trouble. So we are going to look at how to really deal with our in-laws as women, and how to enjoy a more fulfilling relationship with our in-laws. There is nothing that God cannot do. So I'm going to do a little bit of reading in this aspect, just to enhance, just to really go through it in the proper light. So the first point of actually having a fulfilling relationship with your in-law is study them. And I wrote here, the mistake most wives make is lack of wisdom at the initial stage of marriage. When someone comes to a new family, the wise thing to do is to study the people and the place before letting their guard down. Even animals understand and apply this principle. You don't just assume your in-laws love you because they are smiling or hate you because they are cold. While some people love to pretend and smile at you with a dark heart, some might look cold because they want to earn your trust. A woman should be observant until she can understand her in-laws. In that way, she will not be disappointed or surprised at them. Understanding people is the key to having a healthy relationship. So this is self-explanatory. So I encourage you to study your in-laws, study the people. When you come to a place, you have to study your in-laws. There are some animals, when they come to a place, they just put one foot down. Yeah. Some animals got that instincts in them. Until they are used to the environment, they never drop the other foot down. Okay. So one foot up and one foot down. They kind of study the whole environment and feel it's comfortable enough, it's convenient, and they now put the second foot down. So even as human beings as well, when you are getting into a marriage, or even if you're in a marriage already, please, it's very wise for you to study your in-laws, because when you are coming, some people don't even like it. They start laughing. Oh, welcome. Oh, lovely girl. Oh, this and that. And because they are laughing, some people just assume, oh, they really like me, and that's not it. And sometimes you come to a family, everybody's cold, and you start wondering, why is everybody cold towards me? You assume they hate you, but it might not be because they hate you. You just want to earn your trust. You just want to know that, oh, our child has made a good choice of a wife. So it goes the other way. So the most important thing is study them, because understanding people is the key to having a healthy relationship with them. So once you study people, you now understand them. You're not surprised. So you are not surprised whatever is thrown back at you. So studying your in-laws is very applicable, and this is very helpful for women that are just going into marriage. Study your in-laws. And for those of you that are already in it, still try and study sometimes. Observe. It's very important. Be yourself, don't pretend. And this is also very important for those that are just getting into marriage. There is nothing as destructive as being a fake person. It will just be the matter of time for people to discover who you are. A leopard cannot change its spots. Wives should be themselves. It is okay to show your in-laws your real self, whether you are outgoing, quiet, polite, friendly, etc., provided you are not out of control. They might not approve of your character or personality, but once they know and get to understand you as a person, they will respect you the way you are. However, this does not justify wicked and unruly behavior. Some women may pretend because they want to fit into their in-laws' expectation of an ideal wife. But honestly, the real you is the best you. So when you, especially this is for women also that are going into a family, when you come into please be yourself. No matter their reservations. If you're outgoing, let them know that you're outgoing. If you're bubbling, let them know. If you're quiet and gentle, let them know. You don't have to pretend, because a lot of women do that. And once you pretend, you are going on a journey with their son, or with their brother or their sister. Well, let's use the son now, and it's a lifetime commitment. So your in-laws will get to know you. So there's no need pretending or being fake. So be yourself. People will learn to accept you for who you are. However, like I said, that does not justify unruly behavior or bad conduct. That doesn't mean you go and start misbehaving and expect people to accept you because you are be yourself. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying be yourself. Your attitude, your temperament. You don't have to change yourself for anybody, which is even impossible anyway. The next point I have here is be open-minded towards them. There have been stories of ladies wishing their mother-in-laws dead before they meet their future husbands. I've had stories like that many times. Some going to marry prejudice towards their in-laws, maybe due to their own mother's experience or horror stories they have heard about in-laws. It is true that a lot of women have suffered terribly in the hands of their in-laws, but that does not mean that everyone suffers same fate. There is no gain in being unnecessarily suspicious and close-minded towards your in-laws. If they give you kisses and warm embrace, accept it with joy and gladness. The danger of being paranoid is that you miss out on the beautiful things of life. and you can never see anything good because your judgment is beclouded. Learn to relax and accept love from your in-laws. So be open-minded towards your in-law. Don't go into marriage so suspicious. Don't be too suspicious or paranoid about your in-laws. You have to be open-minded in as much as you want to study them and observe them. Be open-minded, because a lot of women go into marriage with a very bad perception already made, stereotyped about their in-laws, because their mothers might have suffered in their own in-laws hands, or because of stories they've heard about in-laws. Like I said, not everyone suffers the same fate. So the fact that Mrs. A suffered or had real serious problem with in-laws doesn't mean that's what's going to befall you. So you have to be open-minded towards your in-laws, and accept their love and enjoy their support towards you or the marriage as well. The next one I wrote here is how to dealing with your in-laws is compromise where there is a need to. It is true that some in-laws are busybodies. They might step beyond their boundaries sometimes, not because they are evil people. They just let loose at times. Where women can learn to accommodate their in-laws' shortcomings, there is beauty in having a large heart. Most relationships thrive on compromise. Some ladies think that compromising is a sign of weakness or timidity. As a matter of fact, it's a sign of strength and maturity. This does not mean that a woman should take more than she can handle. Compromising is a way of someone acknowledging their imperfections alongside of others and being ready to find a common ground. So when you are going to deal with in-laws, there's need for compromise. There are some things you need to choose your fight with in-laws as well. Yes, some will come to you with their own little issues here and there, but you need to know what you should take seriously and what you should ignore. Sometimes learn to compromise, learn to just live with them, and live with some of their flaws like that, just like you've got your own flaws as well. The next point on dealing with in-laws is pray for them. Whether you are happy or unhappy with your in-laws, it is important to pray for them. Some situations are beyond our control, but a woman can ask God to heal the relationship between her and her in-laws. If a woman has a good relationship with her in-laws, she should keep praying that God will continually strengthen the love. Prayer is a way of asking God to take control and lead the way. So where you need to be prayerful as well. You have to pray for your in-laws. It doesn't matter whether you're happy with them or you're not. You should also know that you're married to their son. Whatever affects them affects their own son and affects you directly. So you need to pray for your in-laws. So if you have a good relationship with them, that God will strengthen the relationship. If you've not on a good relation, on a good side with them, that God should enable you and help you heal whatever is there that needs to be healed. But prayer is very important, especially during when someone is having serious crisis with their in-laws. I believe you should be prayerful and ask God to take control. The next point I want to add here is be mindful of the information you give about your marriage, and this is a very serious one. And I wrote here, sometimes women are advised not to take their marital issues to their in-laws except the problem is getting beyond repair. In as much as there are many good in-laws, they are very supportive towards the marriage. Some are very destructive. Some families don't find fault with themselves. When some wives report their husband's misbehavior, they might take sides with him or even pretend to be supportive. Some might start using the information against the woman and also use it as a means to disrespect her. To be on a safe and neutral side, wives should speak to someone mature or experienced that will represent both the husband and wife in an unbiased manner. That is unless the issue has gotten to the point where the in-laws have to intervene. I do understand that there's sometimes you've got problems and the family needs to come in now. But other than that, I would really encourage you to take your family, your marital issues if you need a third party. I am not really in agreement of third party kind of thing, but if there is a need for third party, look for somebody more neutral. And I wrote here as well, however, it is also important to note that some women have established a wonderful relationship with their in-laws and they can run to them for help. In that case, they can go to them. In as much as in-laws are caring, the woman should be mindful of making such incident a recurring event. this approach should be cautiously used so that the woman or marriage should not be taken for granted. So I do understand that there are some women that have got a loving relationship with their in-laws and they can go to them anytime. But also, please, I would really encourage you not to use this pattern as a method all the time. You have a quarrel with your husband, you call the mom. You have a quarrel with your husband, you call the sister. Don't use it as a pattern all the time, even if they are so supportive of you, because they'll start, before you know it, they start taking the marriage for granted. So I mean, guide as much as you tell your in-laws, no matter how close you are to them. I would suggest. The next point I want to make in dealing with in-laws is, in times of disagreement, your husband should be the one to speak. And I wrote here, in-laws can be very impolite at times, especially mother-in-law versus daughter-in-laws. You're going to have that a lot of time in families, where you see mother-in-law clashing with her daughter-in-laws, and everybody's sticking on to their own gun. And I wrote here, if a woman feels her in-laws disrespect her in any way, she should control herself and communicate her annoyance to her husband. Let her husband do the talking, and the reasons are as follows. So if your in-laws upset you, or your mother-in-law, your sister-in-law, anybody upsets you, especially your parent in-laws, especially your father or mother-in-law, I would encourage you to allow to communicate that annoyance to your husband, to allow them to do the talking. And the reasons are as follow. A, the man is the head of the house. It is his right to protect his home. So it is your husband's duty to ensure that he protects his home. So when anybody comes with an attack, your husband should play the defense. Okay. B, the man will be able to deal with his family because he knows them better. Some in-laws, some son-in-laws know their family very well. So even when the wife comes and says something, say, you know what, I'll deal with them, don't worry. Because it's more helpful if you have a husband that is quite objective and not subjective. You can talk to, and he can help you to deal with family issues. Okay. C, people will easily forgive their own rather than a stranger. Some in-laws sees their daughter-in-laws as outsider. So now when you do the talking, sometimes people, because the in-law is kind of complicated. In-law and getting married to a family sometimes can be very complicated. As much as they feel that, oh, you are one of us, you're married into this family, sometimes in reality it's not so. They still see you as an outsider that came into the family. So when you talk or you say something, people tend to hold it more stronger than when somebody of their own blood speaks. So when you have an argument with an in-law, they find it difficult to forgive you. But when it is, let's say you have an argument with your mother-in-law, she finds it difficult to forgive you. Let's say your husband his own son, which is your husband, have an argument with her, she finds it easier to let go. So because of this kind of incident, I would encourage you to allow your husband to do the talking. Not you, because sometimes in-laws find it difficult to let go, okay, of you, the outsider. So not really an outsider, but seeing you as an outsider, they find it difficult to let it go. It shows that the husband respects and adores his wife, therefore he will not allow anyone to intimidate her. So when your husband talks like that, he kinds of stamp his feet, would not allow anybody to intimidate his wife. So he speaks, will not allow any member of his family to intimidate his wife. So in times of agreement, please let your husband do the talking. But there's a clause there as well, and I'm going to read the clause to you. Often when women stand up to their in-laws, most husbands do not appreciate it because it undermines their authority, or rather it makes them torn between their wife and family. Men find such a position very uncomfortable. Have you ever seen a situation where a mother-in-law and a daughter-in-law are having a quarrel, and how the man looks? I've seen that in movies, or I've seen that in real life anyway. It makes the man so uncomfortable, so you don't want to do that. You don't want to create that. So you let the man do the talking. But however, there's a clause to the man doing the talking as well. Now, this is a clause I want you to put there as well, because I love being balanced. But in some cases, some men are very passive and act as if they are afraid of their family. So the wife suffers at the hands of her in-laws. If this happens repeatedly, listen to me, repeatedly, without any meaningful intervention from the husband, then the woman can speak her mind and stand her ground. There's nothing wrong with protecting herself. So if your in-laws are those ones that are always looking for trouble all the time, and your husband cannot stand his ground, because it's not every man that can do that. Some men are very passive, some men are even scared, some men are trying to avoid trouble, and you know that this is getting too much, then you can now stand your ground and say, you know what, this is my home and I'm not going to let this happen. So that is, and it has to be repeatedly, and no meaningful interventions at all. So that is always the last resort. Then I can encourage a woman to stand on her feet, because I do not I do not accept, or I do not put in for oppression in any form. I'm a Christian, and I'm a Bible believing Christian. The Bible does not give room for any oppression, anybody give room for oppression. So therefore, I do not agree with oppression. So if your in-laws decide to oppress you, and your husband cannot intervene, cannot be the man, then you can stand for yourself. Okay. The next point I want to put here in dealing with in-laws: don't allow them to treat you inhumanly. Yeah, and I wrote here, some in-laws actually see their daughter-in-laws as a slave or household property. This is very common with some culture. Anyway, it's a cultural thing. Some will say things like, you are not just married to your husband, you are married to the entire family. As a matter of fact, this goes against the biblical standard of marriage. The Bible says a man will leave his father and mother and cling to his wife, and the two shall become one. If in-laws take advantage of their daughter-in-laws, it is absolute wickedness. It is important for a woman to respect her in-law, but on no account should she allow them to use, abuse, or maltreat her. Everyone deserves the right to be happy. Some ladies are vulnerable and timid, so they allow unkind treatment. Such women have to make their in-laws know that they came from a family where they are cherished and loved. It is not asking for too much to be treated fairly, even if they do not like her. Definitely there are some women that will go into a family, you will not be liked, you will not be celebrated, you will not be loved. There are some women, unfortunately, that find themselves in that kind of predicament. It doesn't have anything to do with you. You fall in love with their son, and you are set to get married to him, but the family won't accept you, not because of anything. It might be reasons that are not so peculiar to you, maybe your tribe, where you come from, or your family name or something like that. But in as much as your in-laws do not like you, they don't have to like you. But there's one thing you must ensure that it happens: they have to treat you fairly. You don't have to like everybody. You have to be, there's what I call being civil. And there are some people, their relationship would really have to be on that grounds. Be civil. You don't have to like me, but you have to respect me, and I'll respect you for that as well. So I don't agree with culture that kind of maltreat their daughter-in-laws. I've seen there's some culture when a lady gets married, she comes into her husband's matrimonial home. It's a cultural thing anyway, and she comes into her husband's matrimonial home, and she has to do all the work of a slave because she's married to the family. Well, it's a cultural thing. Well, I kind of, it's not my kind of ideal thing. So when you are in the family, you should be respected, and provided you respect them as well, you deserve respect. So you should not allow anybody to treat you humanly. It's not something you should accept and settle for as well. The next one in dealing with in-laws is respect them even if you don't agree with them. And I wrote here, in every relationship, people are meant to have their differences. The problem is not usually about our differences. It's about being tolerant. Being too opinionated and seeing things from just our own point of view is inflexible. When interacting with in-laws, women should try and see where they are coming from. Even if they do not agree with them, you can respectfully disagree. So this also calls for diplomacy when you are dealing with your in-laws as well. Like I said, some people's relationship will be very civil. Some in-laws are difficult, very difficult to handle. But you should learn to respect your in-laws, even if they bring something, they ask you for something, or they talk about something to you. Even if you don't agree with that thing, respectfully disagree. Don't stir up a fight because you want to disagree. You understand? So respectfully disagree with them. In that way, things can be run amicably. Definitely you're going to be having some problems with your in-laws from time to time. I mean, in every family, people are going to have different difficulties. Even brothers and sisters do fight, and there'll be quarrels every now and then. But learn to respectfully disagree to minimize war. Okay. The next point I want to talk about dealing with in-laws is avoid giving them chance to interfere in your personal life. Okay, so you need to avoid that chance, because some in-laws, I'm going to read this to you anyway. Some in-laws will take the arm if they are giving a finger. Some families are very controlling and domineering. Even if their son is a full-grown husband and a father, they still want to control his life. Women married to such men find such interference depressing, especially if the man is obliging to his family's will. However, some women are responsible for such interference due to how they present issues or organize their family structure. Every family have their own little family confidentialities. Most times it is something that should stay within the family. It is not everything that extended family should know. In this way, boundaries are drawn. However, women should note the difference between support and interference. That's because some in-laws want to be supportive and caring. In some cases, such attempts can be too much in the face. But when such care is driven by love rather than by control, the woman can be open-minded and compromise. In that way, she enjoys their love. But interference is an excessive need for control that should be stopped because it's destructive to a home. So this is quite self-explanatory. You need to draw some boundaries as well. In-laws, it's not everything that happens in your house that extended families or in-laws should know. There's some things, just leave it in the house, okay? And also, you should know when your in-laws are interfering, or when they're just being caring and they're just all over the place, okay? So if them being in your life is as a result of care, just enjoy it. But if it's as a result of interference to control them, that must be stopped. It shouldn't be allowed, okay? The next point is, if they are difficult in-laws, keep them arm's length. Just as we have good people, they are also evil people. So women might end up in a family that is wrong for them. It is one of the realities of life. Some families have a very dark history and issues. Most times, women get to know that after the marriage. If a woman is married into a family where they are difficult and unaccommodating, the wisest thing she can do is to keep her distance. She will still be part of the family, but you may have heard the phrase, dine with the foe with a long spoon. There is no point fighting and quarreling with them. It is too much of familiarity that causes contention. When a woman does not make herself easily available, the family does not have anything to say. However, that doesn't mean a woman should not show her difficult in-laws love and support. Staying away is a way of protecting herself and her family to avoid hurts. So when you have some in-laws you can never please, no matter what you do, you can never please them. And I would advise you in that kind of situation to keep your own distance a bit. You don't have to be on their face, because if you're not available, they might not have anything to say about you. So when you have this kind of in-laws, just stay on your own. Doesn't mean you should not support or get involved when there is a family thing going on, but just to stay on your own would help you a lot and protect your own home as well. Avoid taking part in any family traditions that are against your faith. Okay, there are some families that practice traditions that are not pleasing to God. Sometimes they might insist that their daughter-in-law partakes as a compulsory rite. But the Bible has instructed us that nothing should separate us from the love of God. It is better to obey God than any family tradition that is not glorifying Him. So that's another point as well that I want to bring home again. Avoid partaking in any family traditions. There are some families that they might say you should come and partake in some things that is against your faith in God. Avoid such traditions. And some would even threaten that the marriage is over. It's a compulsory right in this marriage, in this family, that you worship this, you bow down to this. You're gonna have some families like that. It's not every family that's going to be you're going to get into that. It's going to be a Christian, okay? But you have to hold on to your faith and stay strong in your own faith, okay? The next point in dealing with in-laws is be kind and helpful to them. Kindness goes a long way. Some women are very unkind and hateful towards their in-laws. Some do not see themselves as part of the family. Their relationship with their in-laws is like that of a stranger. Some women are naturally very mean and would even manipulate their husbands from helping their family members. They forget that they existed in the man's life. They forget that before they existed in the man's life, he had a family Loving and honoring your in-law is key thing and should be taken seriously. So in as much as we got in-laws that are bad, it's not every in-law that is bad. Some daughter-in-laws are horrible as well. You come into a man's life and all of a sudden you just want to control everything. You don't want his families to get into his life, and I find that very, very irritating, because first and foremost, before this man grew up to the point where you find him acceptable to be a husband, you need to know that some people have nurtured and invested in his life. So you don't come to into a marriage and start manipulating your husband against his own family. That's a wrong way of doing things. However, that doesn't mean that if you see some disturbing things, you cannot say, "Oh, okay, honey, look at this," or critically see things from a critical point of view. That's what I'm saying. But when you start planting seeds of discord in your husband's heart towards a family, that is wrong. So you have to be kind to your in-laws. You have to respect them. You have to honor them. You have to even appreciate the fact that the man you so much love came out of them, and I think that would go a long way as well. Another point on dealing with in-laws is husband and wife should agree on what roles their families should play. Whether it's your in-laws on both your own parents or your husband's parents or extended families, there should be a unified agreement of what role they should play. The reason why some couple quarrel and fight over in-law matters is because they don't have a unified agreement on the roles of in-laws, such as budget, settling, crisis support. Couples should know where their families comes in. Okay. Some men do not clear matters with their wife before enlisting the help of their family. The wife is always the last to know. Some even confide in their mother rather than their wife. Arguably, some men have bad wives, but in some cases that might not be so. Some husbands just have a wrong mentality about marriage. Deep in their heart, they see their wife as a stranger and family as family. Some even basically act as if they are married to their mothers. Such arrangement does not benefit the interest of the marriage. In-laws' role should be defined by couples. I could see that there have been situations like this. Some men, they are married to this woman. It's not because the woman is bad or anything like that, but they will feel that, oh, they are more safer with their own family than even their own wife, and this is not the biblical standard of marriage. So you see some men would even have assets and will it all to their family members, and their wife having nothing. There are situations like that. You see some men, they will buy a house in maybe in their mom's name, rather than, they will not want their wife to know what their life, what is going on in their life. Their families are always would always know. Their wives are always the last to know. I mean, such does not benefit the marriage. So husbands and wives should agree on the role their families should play. They should not play beyond that role, and I don't think it's right, except you are you've studied your spouse, and you see that your spouse is a destructive one, because some people are married to destructive spouse. Then you can maybe fall to your family. But if that is not the case, it's just a mental thing. It's just a mental thought that your family is your family and your wife is your wife, and therefore your family should know better than your wife. It's wrong. It's against the biblical injunction, and I would say that is not healthy at all. So come together with your in-laws, come together with your wife and agree on what roles your in-laws should play in the marriage. Another point of dealing with in-laws is be a good hostess. Occasionally in-laws will visit, Occasionally in-laws will visit. Some will stay a little longer. Be a good hostess instead of complaining and wearing heavy face. Learn to enjoy their company even if they are demanding. It's just for a while. One of the commandments of a good wife is to be a good host. One of the commandments of a good wife is to show hospitality. If a woman can have a large heart towards her in-laws, it will be very helpful. When a woman plays a good hostess, she also makes her husband happy and feels honored. So when your in-laws come to your house, make sure that they enjoy their visit, their stay, entertain them, cook for them, let them just relax in your house. So women, the moment their in-laws are coming to their house, they start frowning and looking angry and everything. That's not good. It's not something you should do. Just be happy, have them, even if they are demanding. I do understand that some in-laws are quite demanding, but at least they're just coming to stay for a while, and just care for them as much as you can. Let them their stay be worthwhile. Okay, don't disrespect your husband in the front in the front of your in-laws. Okay, so women are out of control. The worst thing a wife can do is to disrespect her husband before his family. If a woman is not happy with her husband, she can control herself until the in-laws are gone before expressing herself. Disrespecting or overruling a man before his family undermines his authority. It's humiliating and does not reflect well on the wife. So this is another point as well in dealing with in-laws. Don't go around your in-laws and start disrespecting your husband. You know, it's very sad some women do that. You know, they go before their in-laws and start talking. They are so I want to report your son to you. Your son is so, and your husband is there. And say you are stupid, you are mad. You feel you are angry and you're trying to express how angry you are, but don't do that. It's wrong. You undermine your husband's authority. It doesn't even tell good on you as well if you do that as a wife. So when you are upset with your husband, try and deal with it inside. Don't disrespect him in the presence of his family. Even the family finds it very annoying as well, even if he is wrong. Okay. The next point, dealing with in-law, send them gifts. Women should send their in-law gifts that they can afford, just a token of love to show that they care. Life is about sharing. So if you have in-laws, send them gifts. Sometimes share what you have with them. It might be monetary gifts, it might just be gifts, just a token of love to your in-laws. It's a good gesture. The next one is, don't please them to displease yourself. Okay, in-laws do have their own expectations and demands. That does not mean a wife should displease herself to please them. Some couples carry their in-laws' burden on their shoulders, even at the detriment of their own personal needs. It is good to help and support in-laws, but don't let it go to the point where you can't support yourself. Some in-laws capitalize on couples' generosity, so they milk them. Couples should not make themselves the golden geese that lays the golden egg. Some in-laws will take advantage, not mindful of the fact that the process of laying egg is very painful and stressful. Displeasing yourself for others is not wise, but you can remain open-minded even if it means that you inconvenience yourself at times. Okay, so I'm not saying you should not inconvenience yourself for in-laws sometimes. Sometimes you have to inconvenience yourself for your extended family. That's why it's a family. But if you have this pattern of displeasing yourself to please your family or your in-laws, even at the detriment of your own needs, then that is wrong. And some people do that a lot. They are so if you don't help, if I've seen women that say, we don't have, but we need to help my in-laws, because if we don't help, they will think I am the one influencing their child, their son, not to help them. Those kind of thoughts is, I don't think something we should be you should bother about. So you got your needs. In-laws should know that. Make in-laws know that we've got our needs, and we give out of the little we have, but demands are not something we can cope with. So don't displease yourself at all to please them. But however, sometimes you need to inconvenience yourself for family. It always happens. The next point in dealing with in-laws is use peace approach rather than war approach. Okay, in the history of mankind, peace has proven to be more effective than war. Family dispute can be very destructive. Some can last for generations. In families, there are going to be quarrels every now and then, but the wife should always encourage peace. War is not helpful to anyone. It brings about strife and bitterness. So yeah, when you're in a family, you see that there's going to be war every now and then, clashes and fights and quarrels. But you as a wife, it's not the time for you to start stirring up more or start adding more insult on the injury. So always try to promote peace, ensure peace, because the peace approach is more beneficial to the family than war. And also, when you really look at some families, sometimes family dispute can last and it can pass on from one generation to another generation, and you don't want that. You just want to encourage peace. The next point is, and the final point is, don't poison your husband's mind against them. Some women get into a family and destroy their happiness. In as much as they are good in-laws, they are also bad wives. So women turn their husband's heart against his family. They poison the man's mind to hinder him from helping or relating to members of his family. They do not even allow in-laws to visit their homes. Such women usually do not have peace in their life because they are not peacemaker. Life is too short for anyone to promote hate. Okay, so what I'm just trying to say is that You know, if you come into a family, there are some family that are relatively happy. I've seen situations like that where a woman just gets married to one of them, and automatically comes the home with trouble, cause more conflict, bring more bitterness and sorrow amongst the family members, and that is not right. Don't be that kind of a woman. To me, that's very horrible and horrifying. For a woman to allow the devil to use her to bring strife into a family. So don't be that kind of wife that always, no, even if your in-laws are problematic, don't be that kind of wife that would always manipulate your husband, poison his mind, hinder him from helping his relatives, push him out from his own people, make him vulnerable, because women can be very manipulative sometimes. I do agree they can have a very negative influence on their husbands as well. So don't use your own influence negatively but positively to ensure that the family is well and put together. But however, there are some women that are really, really going through a lot in their in-laws' hands, and I'll say to you that I hope these tips really help you. And I just want to leave you with a scripture that says, Matthew 11, verse 28. And said, Jesus said, "Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." And Christ is telling you that no matter what your in-laws or pain you have been through as a result of being married to the person you love, Jesus is saying to you that, bring your burdens to me, I'll give you rest. I do understand some women are really, really in a very difficult position as a result of being married to a particular family, but there's nothing that God cannot do. And with these tips, I hope that some women or women that are having problems with their in-laws would have a more healthier and better relationship with their in-laws. Thank you very much. Bye bye.